Specialties in Psychology. Introduction to Psychology Unit 4. Developmental Psychology. Developmental psychology is a broad field of interest in which the physical, emotional, and intellectual characteristics and development of youngsters from prenatal stage onwards are studied. In addition to this are changes in many other forms of activity, for example, the acquisition of language or the growth of a sense of morality. Educational Psychology. Educational psychology deals with topics related to teaching children and young adults, such as intelligence, memory, problem solving, and motivation. Specialists in this field evaluate teaching methods, devise tests, and develop new instructional devices for films, television, and classrooms. An educational psychologist will use the subject matter of psychology mainly to help children going through the education system. You should note also that educational psychology seeks to discover by studying the mental, physical, social, and emotional behavior of children and adults, the factors which influence the quality and quantity of learning. Thus, if a particular child is experiencing difficulty with his/her school work, or is being disruptive in the classroom, the psychologist may examine the child to try to establish what might be causing the problem. Let us cite an example. The teacher may conduct an IQ test on the child, or interview the individual and the parents. Following such an assessment, the psychologist may be able to recommend the best way in which the school might deal with the individual or meet his/her needs. The application of psychology in education therefore gives us a means of appraising children's similarities and differences when attempting to create more efficient learning environments for them. The application of psychology in education also provides us with a means of making evaluations of our own strengths and weaknesses as learners and teachers. Al Hassan, 2000. Social Psychology. Social psychology studies groups of people and how they influence individual behavior. Some are particularly interested in public opinion and devote much of their time to conducting polls and surveys. Social psychology is the study of social institutions and their impact on the behavior of individuals. It concentrates on the external agencies which influence man. Social psychologists would be interested in the study of family, village, and role of the head teacher or effect of family background on achievement at school. Physiological Psychology. The domain of the physiological psychology is the examination of the biological best bases of behavior with particular reference to the biochemical reactions underlying memory and learning, and the role of various portions of the brain in the regulation of such motives as hunger and thirst, and such basic processes as sleep. Clinical Psychology. A clinical psychologist is someone who specializes in the treatment of those with behavioral problems and mental illness. Such a person will have received specialized training, usually involving a further 3-year course of study. You should note that clinical psychologists often work within hospitals or specialist psychiatric facilities, and many sometimes are part of a team comprising psychiatrists, nurses, and so on. Clinical psychiatrists often work to help those with relatively minor behavioral disorders, such as phobias. Occupational Health Psychology. Occupational health psychology focuses on work environment, the individual, and the work-family interface. It concerns the application psychology to improve the quality of work life and to protect and promote the safety, health, and well-being of workers. Cardiac Psychology. This studies the workings of the heart and cardiac structure of the transport system in higher animals and the center of emotions, especially love, and the mind, what a person thinks or feels. Conscious Thoughts of Patients, The Monitor APA, 1998. Psychology of Law. Both psychology and law deal generally on human behavior with reference to testimony, evidence, influences, crime, truancy, delinquency, and emotion. Psychology has a great deal to offer any law enforcement agency, large or small. Law enforcement officers and their management structure face a considerable variety of problems, many of which can be addressed by knowledgeable and skillful professional psychologists. It is important for you to note that whether psychological services can be effective depends on the degree to which police managers accept that understanding human behavior can further the goals and purposes of law enforcement. The professionals in this areas may specialize in community psychology. Forensic Psychology, Psychology of Politics, Feminist Psychology, Community Psychology. The main thrust of community psychology is in the direction of family care programs and programs in child guidance and rehabilitation centers. Forensic Psychology. This is the branch of psychology that will be of most interest to those studying this course. It involves mainly the application of psychology to the area of crime and the legal system. Note that forensic psychology is applicable in many other areas. Forensic psychology studies psychological damages, forensic examination, expert testimony in employment-related disputes, doomsday cults, secret societies and militias, brainwashing, madness, criminality, sexual predator loss, patient estimate of pain, child custody decision-making, child sexual behavior in relation to abuse variable, treating psychological disturbances caused by motor accidents, and forensic evaluation of sexual harassment, the Monitor APA, 1998. Psychology of Politics. It is that body of knowledge which lies somewhere between individual psychology and political science, just as social psychology and sociology. It deals with the problems of control of behavior among groups, with the study of organizations of people in conflict. It refers also to the ways and means, the methods and techniques by which politicians, particularly partisan politicians, promise the masses various things, such as paradise, having all their villages air-conditioned, and so on, when in reality, the masses, particularly in developing countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, are always forgotten once such politicians are on the seat of power. Such politicians manipulate and exploit the needs and aspirations of the gullible masses to their advantage. It is important for you to note that the psychology of politics is practiced in the developed and developing countries. However, in the former, the level of literacy is comparatively high and the electorate is far more sophisticated. These factors make the practice of both politics and the psychology of politics much more demanding. Conversely, in the developing countries the level of literacy is comparatively low and the citizens are both less sophisticated and more gullible. This makes it easier for politicians in the developing countries to practice the psychology of politics on the people. Feminist Psychology. This branch of psychology is on how widely held feminist tenets such as empowering individuals, valuing diversity, and creating dialogue can be integrated across the field of psychology. Disability and health psychology. This studies the interplay between psychological health and medical conditions. It introduces information on the nature of different types of disabilities and the ways in which disability develops. Specific factors such as age of onset, duration of the disability and how the disability was acquired, all towards psychological adjustment. Philosophical counseling. Unlike the approach of counseling psychology, the approach of philosophical counseling is more open-ended and reflective. There are no fixed ideas or goals. The possibilities of cross-fertilization between philosophy and psychology are wonderful. It is important for you to know that there are many ways in which meaningful life changes can occur through education, one form of which is the discussion of philosophical issues. Gerald Achenbach is believed to be the first to revive the profession of philosophical counseling when in 1981 he founded a suicide prevention organization called the Samaritan, Phillips, 1997:12. In his work, Achenbach believed that the counter between the philosopher and the client was of the paramount importance, and that the aim was not healing but arriving at a satisfactory self-explanation and clarification. You must remember that philosophical practice has been a worldwide movement that is starting to flourish in Germany, the Netherlands, the USA, Canada, Britain, France, Israel, and South Africa. It is to be noted that each of these countries now has its own certification organization. Police psychology. We must of course add police psychology, as this is the subject matter of another unit in this course. In the unit, you will see the extent to which psychology might be useful in the training of police recruits and in everyday policing. End of presentation. Thanks for your attention. See you next time.